Saints fans and Who-Dats from all over the world. This is Kyle T. Mosley here with the Saints News Network. And guys, we'd like to just welcome you to tonight's program. I am here with Mr. Bob Rose himself. What's going on, Bob?
Not a lot at all, Mr. Mosley. I hope you and your family are doing well. Listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in with us on another Wednesday night. And I hope you and your family are staying happy and well and safe also.
Yeah, mask it up, baby. Mask it up. Everything is going pretty well, especially in this hotbed of COVID-19. Guys, stay safe, mask it up, and do the right thing. Before we go on any further, we're going to have a special guest tonight, Mr. Irv Smith, Sr. You know, his son, Irv Smith Jr., is now playing with the Minnesota Vikings, but Irv is a former New Orleans Saints as well as he is a legend for the New Orleans Saints franchise. He was our number one pick at one time from Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, he was number one draft choice out of Notre Dame in 1993. So he caught the tail end of that Dome Patrol era. And unfortunately for Irv Smith, he also oversaw or helped oversee some new dark days for the Saints franchise. So we're definitely going to ask him about that transformation during the course of the evening. And Kyle, I know you feel this way as well. We're both big fans of his son, Irv Smith Jr., terrific player out of the University of Alabama. Great kid too. We love him. We love his dad. We just hate the team that Irv Jr. plays for right now. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. That team is a no fun team. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But guys, in the meantime, the New Orleans Saints have released a press release to media as well as to the fans to let them know that on September 13th, the New Orleans Saints in the side of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome will not be having fans in attendance to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Now, I know a lot of fans are going to be very disappointed, but the governor, the mayor, as well as the team sat down today to kind of discuss going forward how the team as well as how this is going to look for fans to be inside of the Superdome. Now, they have plans already in place, Bob. I think they were talking between 20 to 30,000 people that they were going to try to put into the Superdome. But right now, the state is still in phase 2 until the state is able to get into phase 3. It's not going to happen. What are your thoughts?
Kyle, listen, I know it's disappointing for anybody that plans on attending the New Orleans Saints games this year, especially for those of whom were planning on going to the season opener. But listen, it's the right thing to do. We want to have football this season, but we don't want to have it at the cost of our own personal safety, our family's safety, or the safety of the players on the football field. And I think with the way the NFL is proceeding, they're letting individual teams in individual cities handle any attendance restrictions. And most, as we put out an article on SI.com about a week and a half ago, outlining the Saints visiting opponents or the places that the Saints were scheduled to visit in the 2020 season. Some teams at that time even were already coming out with attendance restrictions, and we acknowledged even then that there would be more to come, and we're seeing it now with our very own Saints. And look, let's be realistic. It's going to be more than just a season opener. As I posted on my personal page a couple of days ago, we had tickets to a couple Saints home games this year, the earliest of which was the Chargers Monday night game in Week 5. And we're not season ticket holders, but we did purchase those tickets through StubHub, and StubHub refunded us the amount of the tickets. Gave us 120% refund on top of that, which of course we plan on using for more Saints tickets when applicable. But folks, we have to expect this kind of thing. And if that's the way football needs to be played, at least, especially in the early portion of the 2020 season, then so be it. Let's accept it and enjoy the product. We're still going to get to watch our teams on TV. And hopefully in doing this kind of thing, the state and local governments will be able to get a better handle on this thing. folks that are proceeding. Now I'm going to jump on a soapbox for 1 second. People that are proceeding outside their homes when you don't feel well, when you know you've been exposed, or doing so without a mask on or any kind of safety coverings, you're the problem. If you stop doing that and people let us proceed and all of us proceed with the proper safety measures, adhering to social distancing policies, wearing masks in public, and above all else, staying home when you don't feel well. That's why things have gotten to this point, and things are not going to get any better until we, each of us individually, take responsibility for our own actions and do the right thing.
Okay. You're right, Bob. I know personally, man, it happened to a close relative of mine 2 weeks ago. A young lady she sits next to at work wasn't feeling well, but decided to come into work anyway. Well, at the end of the day, the young lady told them, "Oh, I haven't been feeling well all day." So they get a call the next day. That person was tested positive for COVID-19.
Wow.
And guess what happened to the 6 young ladies who she worked with? All of them are now at home, quarantining, trying to get over COVID-19. Okay, so that's just some of the issues that I see as a fan. If I'm in the stadium or even as media covering, I would have a mask on. But how do I know where? I'm just going to use John Hendricks was yesterday. How do I know where, let's say, Nick Underhill was? Yeah, how do I know this? So those are some of the things that we just need to pay attention to. I know a lot of people are getting off because of that, but it is what it is, guys. We got to be safe out there at this time. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Saints. We're going into kind of completing week 2, right, Bob? The Saints have already gone through their COVID-19 testing and protocol last week. They are now going through some workouts. They had some walkthroughs. They're being sequestering at the Lowe's New Orleans Hotel, downtown New Orleans. They are going through meetings, and today was a great day because we saw some photos of the team out on the field. We saw Breeze, we saw Jameis Winston, we saw Taysom Hill, we saw Emmanuel Sanders, we saw Michael Thomas looking all ripped and ready to go already, man. I just am geeked up about what I saw, and I saw one of the guys, I think Underhill, say, "What can I overhype about one of these photos?" So what can you overhype about some of the photos that you saw thus far, man?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's just, I know it's not the same that it has been in years past, but football is back, so let's be happy about that. And yeah, the first couple of things that popped into my mind when I saw the pictures getting released today, I saw a great photograph of Michael Thomas going one-on-one with Marshawn Lattimore. If that isn't iron sharpening iron, I don't know what is. Alvin Kamara, and we knew this from talking to Dr. Reef and different interviews with Alvin during the offseason. We knew he was going to come in great shape, but man, he looks bigger. He looks stronger. We know how flexible and athletic he is. I can't wait for some videotape to be released, to see that explosiveness that he naturally has. And it's just so good to have these guys back.
Yeah. What's interesting, because when Kamara met with the media, he said he usually reports in between 213, 215, right? But now he's down to 211. And a lot of that was due to his training, of course, but he's also cut out sugars and other type of foods. He's becoming more plant-based foods as far as his diet is concerned. And you find that a lot of players nowadays are taking that plant-based type of regimen inside of their diets. It's hard, man. I tried it. Have you tried that before?
No, I haven't, and I won't. I, I like my meats too much. Red meat, poultry, even seafood. I like them too much. And don't get me wrong. Even as a kid, I preferred a piece of fruit over a candy bar most of the time, and I still love my fruit to this day. But even if I was still playing sports at the highest level that I achieved, I was unwilling to alter my diet very much at all, even then. And the old me, knowing what I know now, if I could transport that back into that younger, more vibrant body, still probably wouldn't change the diet, Kyle.
Okay, man. All right. I need it, so I will try it a little bit more, But anyway, one of the good things about what I've seen from the Saints and talking to those guys and having them to answer some questions is that it seems like the whole team is very focused, Bob. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the conversations from Sean Payton to the players to it just seems like the focus is football, and this team has something to prove. Teron Armstead a couple of weeks ago said that it's Super Bowl or bust, right? And then we had was it Emmanuel Sanders? He kind of echoed the same thing. It's Super Bowl or bust. How do you feel about this team? Is it Super Bowl or bust?
It could be. We've had a lot of conversations about how young this team is and, their core talent outside of Drew and Thomas Morstead, of course. So they are built for success in the long haul. But we've also had just as many conversations about the big contract decisions that are facing this front office over the next 2 years. And yes, they are masters at manipulating the salary cap and keeping their core players intact. But eventually you got to pay the bill. And you got to start, you got to believe that at some point they're going to start to lose some of these big name players. So, the 2020 New Orleans Saints is liable to have a very, very, very different look in 2021. That's not to say that it'll be a better or worse team, but certainly different. So this core of players, looking at it as Super Bowl or bust, with as close as they've come in the last 3 years, I don't think that you can be a member in that locker room and have any other focus to it. Now, they're professionals, and they're also wise enough to understand that they have to take one game at a time. But they also know what it takes to get to the level that they have reached already in the last 3 seasons and have to be scratching their heads at, okay, how do we knock that door down now? And that's where their primary focus lies, because knocking the door down means, of course, Super Bowl.
Oh, man, that brings me back to the old Bum Phillips saying, we're going to kick that door in, right? Oh, I don't like that. And it's kind of similar to what happened to the Oilers back then too, man. Freak play against the Steelers, lose that playoff and that chance to go to the Super Bowl, right? Bun Phillips had some really good teams, Earl Campbell and those guys, Pastorini. But those guys and Renfro, they were never able to get over that hump. Right. Hopefully, this is not the New Orleans Saints. Okay, we got some breaking news from Donald Woods. He says that Everson Griffin is going to the Cowboys on a 1-year deal. So, what about Clowney now? What about Clowney, Bob?
There's still no news on Jadeveon Clowney. No concrete news anyway. Continues to be all kinds of speculation. We realize, because I've been advocating for Everson Griffin too, if they weren't able to sign Clowney. Griffin is one heck of a player, as we know from watching the Saints face him against the Vikings. So the Cowboys are getting one whale of a football player. I still have a feeling that Jadeveon Clowney continues to ask for too high of a salary for the Saints to be interested. I know what Clowney has said about wanting to play for a legitimate Super Bowl contender. But Kyle, first of all, he came from a Super Bowl contender in Seattle who offered him a deal twice that he walked away from. So for Jadeveon Clowney, I need to see him put his actions where his words have been. And I don't say, would he be a great fit with New Orleans? Oh, heck yeah. But I don't think that the Saints have any interest either in continuing, to play games with this guy who it's becoming more and more clear to me that he's after the contract more than he is the ring.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. Okay. So Clowney is still on the market. He's still a top free agent, right? I think right now, after Griffin has signed with the Cowboys, Clowney may be number one still, right?
Yeah.
So the Saints still have Davenport. They have Marcus Hunt. They have Mario Edwards Jr. They have, of course, Cam Jordan, right? Who else other than Trey Hendrickson can the Saints say Clowney can just come in and immediately take over in the rotation?
Well, remember they drafted Zach Bond in the 3rd round, and we're all big fans of Zach, and we're excited to see what he's going to do in the Saints defense. And we also know that Zach is going to more or less fill the role of a more traditional linebacker, but he was used as a pass rusher, a very good pass rusher in college at Wisconsin. Now, he's not the kind of guy, he's a little light in the hips for an NFL defensive end, but he's the kind of guy that you can sort of design pass rush packages for, especially when you already have the likes of Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport on the field, and Sheldon Rankins and David Onyemata inside. So don't forget about Zach Bond rushing the passer either. And as far as what your point about Clowney, I'll answer that in the way that our good friend and the legendary Mike Detillier always says: you can never have enough guys to put the opposing passer on the ground. So that's why Jadeveon Clowney has such a value to the Saints. Like I said, I'm not disrespecting the player and his value. What I am, I guess, disrespecting is, does he really want to play for a contender, or does he just want to see who the highest bidder is going to be at the end of the day? And if it's the latter, I don't think that that's going to be the New Orleans Saints.
I don't think he's looking for the highest bidder, to be honest with you, because think about it. If he had a good contract offer from Cleveland, he was expected a good contract offer from the Seattle Seahawks as well. And I think the Cowboys were contemplating something for him as well, right? I don't think he's being unreasonable. Maybe it is that he believes the best fit for him is in New Orleans. That's a possibility. The unfortunate thing right now, the Saints only have $7.3 million in cap space available, right? So going forward, how does a team get rid of some of that cap space right now? Unless you start terminating some contracts here or there, but some of those contracts still will go into dead money, right? So that's where the creativity of Kai Harley as well as Mickey Loomis will be able to take over if they are able to pursue Clowney. You can't ever have enough pass rushers. Granted, you have a great guy in Cam Jordan that came out, is the fact that Cam, Sheldon Rankins, who was also rehabbing with Davenport, they had the time to be able to spend some time together, right? So they took some, and when you're rehabbing, that's some quiet time. You guys can talk, reflect, kind of bond, and get things together, right? Cam gave him some good advice. He said stop thinking, but what he meant was stop overthinking.
Yeah.
He was overthinking what he was doing. And I had an opportunity to speak to Ken Times, and Ken Snatcher, used to be a part of the Saints news crew. He's battling COVID-19 too, so get well, my friend. But I'm going to say this. He gave me some good advice because, he led the USFL in pass rushing and sacks in 1983. And he said this, the problem is for a pass rusher, he said, Bill Walsh told me the best thing, you're being indecisive. A pass rusher has to be decisive. Even if you overrun the play or overrun the quarterback or the running back, make a decision. That's the bottom line. And he said, looking at Marcus Davenport, he's thinking how he's going to get there, or have I made the right play, or am I in the right position? Just let your instincts and let your talent get to you and overcome all the cerebral things that is going through your mind, right? So I believe that's some of the keys for him right there, man. Let's see. Down the Wood said, I forget about Zach Bond. Okay, he come on third downs, right? And Jerry, you say you're lost now. I'm sorry, Jerry. Tell us how you lost, my friend. Okay. So those are just some of the things I see, man. Yeah, you can be able to have Clowney. I'm not saying don't get him, but you also have some good talent that's already here with the New Orleans Saints, and that's probably one of the main reasons the Saints haven't really forced the issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And they obviously like what they have in-house because they worked so hard to keep it together this offseason. And this is a team, remember, folks, without Jadeveon Clowney, mind you, they've had 100 quarterback sacks in the last 2 years, including 51 last year, and countless quarterback pressures other than that. Now, unfortunately, we have seen this team struggle a little bit to put pressure on the passer in the last 2 playoff losses on Jared Goff of the Rams and Kirk Cousins last year. But we know that they have the talent to get there. Each of the last 2 years, you were missing Sheldon Rankins inside. Each of the last 2 years, you were missing Marcus Davenport on the outside. That allowed teams to double and triple team Cam Jordan with success, like we saw many teams do throughout earlier in his career. This team is going to be very hard to defend up front now, especially with a healthy Rankins and a healthy Davenport. And Onyemata, I think, is going to have a monster season too. And don't sleep on the inside rush skills of Shy Tuttle either.
Right. You see, the Saints, they allowed Stallworth to, I guess, find a new home is the best way to say it, right? So they cut Stallworth. Stallworth was teetering on being signed and getting cut at the end of the season anyway. Bring him on to the 53, then get him cut in case they needed to swap out a body here or there. But he found a home in Indianapolis with the Colts, so he's good to go. The thing that you look at that interior, we really did miss Sheldon Rankins in that playoff game, guys. We really sorely missed him. David, he did his best to hold it down, but Sheldon could have been a difference maker for the Saints, as well as Marcus Davenport. He definitely could have been a difference maker, especially on the last drive from the Minnesota Vikings. So hopefully we'll see a more explosive Marcus Davenport. Hopefully we'll see a more healthy Sheldon Rankins after 2 seasons straight of having his seasons to end due to injury. Okay? All right. The Saints also officially brought in Nigel Bradham. Now, that was your boy. That was your big signing. Tell us, Bob, why Nigel Bradham was the man for you as well as for the Saints.
Well, a lot of credit over to John Hendricks, too, because he was calling for it as well. But, yeah, Nigel Bradham was my number 1 guy at linebacker all off season. And I was so thrilled. Folks, forgive my absence, our absence from the show last week. I had the nerve to disappear for a week and hang out in a hurricane on the beach. But when Kyle actually had to text me and let me know that hey, the Saints got Nigel, and I was jumping up and down for joy. And Nigel Bradham, he's 31 years old, but he's an every down kind of guy. He plays with his hair on fire, as I like to say. A lot like Demario Davis. He is going to relentlessly track down your quarterback or your ball carrier from sideline to sideline, and he has the athleticism to get there fast and the ferocity to make you remember that he got to you. Nigel, I expect Nigel Bradham to take over the starting job from Kiko Alonso, even once Kiko is healthy relatively quickly. And in doing so, assuming Alex Anzalone remains healthy, knock on wood, the trio of Anzalone, Bradham, and Demario Davis gives this team a more athletic linebacking trio than Sean Payton has had in his 14, 15 years here. We're going to see some big things out of Nigel Bradham. I was shocked that the Philadelphia Eagles didn't make a stronger push to keep him because he was such a big contributor for that Super Bowl champion defense of a few years ago. And since then, because the Eagles the previous 2 years have been absolutely hammered by injuries on the defensive end. But Bradham was one of their constants. He's a tackling machine. He's an underrated pass rusher. He's athletic enough to take on an opposing, most of the league's best tight ends, which now gives you 3 linebackers that can, that have the potential to do so. And he's a really instinctive run defender too. I love this signing of Nigel Bradham. He could potentially take this defense to the next level.
Yeah, Nigel Bradham, man, the thing about him, he's going into his 9th year in the league, and so he's a vet. He's a Super Bowl champion. He and Malcolm won their championship over the the Patriots. Tom Brady and those guys, right? But I think it was a good score, 41-33. Yeah, I do remember that Super Bowl. It was a good Super Bowl. But anyway, the bottom line is Bradham has a good range to him. He's athletic. I did have a chance to ask Sean Payton today in the press conference about Bradham, and he did say he likes what he saw on film, his pro tape. He likes his athleticism. He likes the fact that he's an experienced guy, and he also has versatility where he possibly will be on special teams. So the key to this year's New Orleans Saints has been versatility. Can we get a guy to play multiple positions? Let's sign him. Can he be effective at both of those positions as well? Let's sign him, right? So I think those are some of the things that we see in the signing of Bradham, and I like him. He's a good guy, and he's always been pretty good at multiple positions. You're right. Bradham could play strong, weak, and Mike. Good all-around defender. You are correct, Donald. He is, man. And also, what do y'all see? Okay, so Donald, we're going to come back to a Patrick Robinson comment, and we're going to come back to that because, Patrick Robinson and Bob are real good friends. They love each other a whole lot. So we'll come back to that comment there. Okay, so you got Bradham in the fold, and I know it's too early to tell or too early to say. Could Zach Bond, could he see the field more earlier than anticipated?
That depends, and it depends on Zach. And how quickly he picks up the coverage schemes and coverage responsibilities that are gonna be asked of him. Like we said earlier in the show, Zach, and I'm kind of outlining this in my linebackers piece tomorrow morning for Saints News Network. Zach was asked to do a lot of defensive end and stand-up pass rusher duties at Wisconsin. When he did drop into coverage, because I watched a lot of film on Zach Bond before the draft, because I viewed him as a late first round, mid second round prospect. But when I watched film on Zach, I saw a guy that does have good instincts in coverage and certainly has the athleticism. What he lacks is the experience, and that experience is going to be evident if he's early on, if he's asked to cover one of the better tight ends in the league. Or if he's asked to drop into a zone. because you ask any NFL linebacker, we've had a few of them on this show, and we saw Alex Anzalone struggle with this a little bit his rookie year. Young linebackers often struggle with their zone drops. Are they dropping too short? Are they dropping too deep? Are they not reacting quick enough to the play when it goes on around them? And that the quicker Zach adjusts to those kind of things, we're going to see him. Is the quicker and more playing time that we're going to see. That's why I have said all along that, barring health of the other linebackers in front of him currently on the depth chart, ideally, I would expect to see Vaughn play a lot more later in the season than he does the beginning. But if they do play him in the beginning, that tells me that the coaches are comfortable with what they've seen in camp, and it's got to be the coaches. They get paid to make those decisions. But remember, we're not able to see Zach Vaughn in training camp. Personally, we're not able to see Zach Vaughn in the preseason games because that's been eliminated. So again, as we've said all along, with these incoming rookies and new free agents, that's where they're kind of behind the eight ball a little bit because of due to the lack of their own development. So I would be surprised a little bit to see Zach see the field a lot early on, but he's too good a player to just bury on the bench too. So we're going to see him.
Right. You don't pick a guy like Cesar Ruiz at number 1 if you're going to keep him on the bench. You don't pick a guy in the 3rd round if you're going to keep him on the bench as well. So I think we're going to see more of him in the rotation, so to speak. If it's not as the starter, you will see him. Hopefully it's because of his speed and be able to make the plays that's necessary for the New Orleans Saints. All right. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the defensive backfield. We have Malcolm Jenkins back there. Malcolm Jenkins is the veteran now, the old sage man of the backfield. And we have Marshawn Lattimore, who we know what we're getting there. We also know what we're getting from Janoris Jenkins. So, Bob, after those guys, and we have a name change here from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's now C.D. Deuce. After those guys, how do you feel about what's going to take place on the field behind the starters in the rotation?
Kyle, I'm terrified. And I said it all off season. I'm terrified at the depth that this team has in their secondary. Listen, they're starters. And when I say starters, I am including the artist formerly known as Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in that, because he's your top nickelback. He's going to be your top slot cover guy, and he's a real up-and-coming safety too. But outside of that, and listen, Donald, I see your comment. I assume you're talking about Patrick Robinson. I am sure he's a heck of a nice guy. He doesn't belong on this team. He doesn't. Wow. He terrifies me every time he's out onto the field. And I've always felt that way about Patrick Robinson since the Saints made him a number 1 draft choice back in, I think it was 2010. I've never had confidence in him. And, I know over the last couple of years before he returned to New Orleans, he developed into one whale of a slot cornerback with the Philadelphia Eagles. So Donald Woods Jr., you're absolutely right. He was a key to that Eagles championship run. So not that my opinion means a lot, but I was certainly willing to give him another chance when New Orleans brought him back. He got hurt that first year, but even before he got hurt, he struggled mightily. And then last year, he was an absolute black hole on the field. When he was asked to do any coverage, quarterbacks targeted him. You could almost see an opposing quarterback's eyes light up from the television screen when Patrick Robinson was in the game, particularly when he was lined up in man coverage. And if you don't believe me, flip on any Saints game where Patrick Robinson played, and you'll see what I mean. It's not a personal dislike for the guy. It's really not. I just don't want to see him in a New Orleans Saints uniform this year. I believe that there are still other better options available on the free agent market. I was surprised and disappointed when they didn't address the position more heavily in the draft. They did bring in Keith Washington and Tino Ellis as undrafted rookies, and I'm excited for the potential of both of them. But other than that, they did absolutely nothing to address the depth at the cornerback position outside of that. They let your friend Eli Apple walk, and I thought Apple would have been a great fit as a number 3 cornerback here. But, so be it. We'll let Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders torture him in Carolina for a couple of games. P.J. Williams. I don't feel much stronger about P.J. Williams than I do Patrick Robinson. P.J. is one heck of an off-the-ball defensive back. You put him at safety or you put him in a zone coverage, he's a ball hawk. He can create turnovers, and he always seems to be around the ball when a turnover is created. But man, that kid scares me when he steps into a man coverage role, just like Patrick Robinson. Go ahead.
Okay, let me just stop you there. Not stop you, but put it on pause. I agree with everything you said. P.J. Williams is not. He's not a cornerback any longer, right? If he's playing better at safety, I think Aaron Glenn saw that P.J. Williams did a better job at safety.
Mm-hmm.
That's what re-signed P.J. Williams. That's the re-signing. So to put him at cornerback, especially in today's team, would be a disservice for him, in my opinion. Okay? Now, let's go to Patrick Robinson. Robinson, I don't think his position on the team is solidified, right? But I believe Sean Payton has to make a decision whether or not I keep these undrafted free agents, right? Do I put one on the active roster and one on the developmental roster, right? So now the developmental roster, you have 16 players available. 7 of those players are veterans that you can put on the developmental roster, especially through the COVID-19 situation. You're going to have some veterans that you can be able to bring off and take on, put on, bring off, put on, whatever. So what's your opinion there? Is it because they would like to keep him as far as his veteran abilities, or is it that nobody else is out there on the market?
Wow. And that's a great question. I lean more towards the former. The Patrick Robinson has the edge for a roster spot because of his veteran experience, and not only veteran experience in the league, but experience within the Saints defensive system. And I think that goes a long way. Listen, next to quarterback, I don't think that we have seen I don't think that we have seen many players have success as undrafted or even late round picks early on in their careers at the position of cornerback. We saw our good friend Lyndon Stevens and even a mid-round draft choice in Natrell Jamerson. They weren't able to crack the Saints active roster, a less talented Saints roster when they had their chance, in my opinion. So for that reason, and because there's so many things to pick up, as far as when you're facing an NFL caliber receiver, let alone when you're facing an elite one like a Michael Thomas or a Julio Jones or a Mike Evans. So you're asking a lot for a Keith Washington or a Tino Ellis to be elevated to the active roster and in legitimate competition for a number 3 cornerback spot. And Keith Washington especially, and Kyle, I know you love his game as much as I do. I hope he sticks around. He's a great kid, and I love his game, and I loved his tape that he put out from West Virginia. So I do think that a player like Keith or Tino has a real legitimate shot. But as a number 3 cornerback, tell me that wouldn't scare you, especially opening up the season against the likes of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their receiving core, or the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, and et cetera, et cetera. I believe, and I saw someone just make the comment, yes, Drake Kirkpatrick still is available. So is Morris Claiborne. And both of those players have that same kind of veteran experience. Yeah.
He scares me. Morris Claiborne scares me, though.
Hey, who would you're not wrong, but who would you rather have line up in man coverage in the fourth quarter of of any football game? Patrick Robinson, Drake Kirkpatrick, or Morris Claiborne? And rank them. Patrick Robinson's my number 3 option of those 3.
I mean, I'm not disputing you. Number 1. I think a couple of things happened with Patrick, right? After we signed him, of course, the injury, was it the ankle?
Ankle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then coming back from that, I don't know, you see he was still kind of tentative last season, you know? And then when you come off the bench cold at the end of the game, that was a hard one to really put solely on him. That's why Malcolm Jenkins is here, because that should have been recognized by either Von Bell or Marcus Williams, that he would have needed some support against Thielen, right? So those are some of the things that we just got to be able to take a look at and consider. All right, Bob. So we talked about the defense. Anything on offense that you would need to address going into this training camp?
I think that we know what we have in most of those positions. Michael Thomas is elite. Jared Cook is elite. Alvin Kamara is elite. And Drew Brees is legendary. So you know what you have there. The number 1 thing for me that I want to see, we need to see Cesar Ruiz make a rapid adjustment to the NFL level. He needs to protect your 41-year-old quarterback and to open up holes for your dynamic running back pair of Latavius Murray and Kamara. And we continue to debate, and we've gone back and forth even between each other. Who is Ruiz going to play right guard, or is he going to move into center and have Eric McCoy shift over to right guard? I think both of us are in agreement that probably the easier fit for the whole line is to plug Ruiz in at right guard at the moment. But you're definitely putting that young man in the
practice some today as well. I'm sorry. He did play right guard some today.
Okay. And for reasons you and I and John Hendricks and Mike Detillier, when they were on with us, they're the 2 that kind of brought us around to that way of thinking for at least the 2020 season. But regardless of whatever position Ruiz plays, he's a number 1 draft choice. He is going to have to play well quickly for this offense to continue operating on all cylinders. And for that reason, he's under so much more pressure than a guy like Adam Troutman, who we still expect big things from, but you have Jared Cook in front of him on the depth chart, and you have all those other weapons that Brees has at his disposal throughout the offense. So Troutman can afford to come along a little bit more slowly without costing the New Orleans Saints football games. If Cesar Ruiz does not play well, that's going to cost the Saints football games.
Yeah, well, Sean Payton also talked about this in not this past the last press conference, but I think was his first press conference, that it made sense to possibly have McCoy center, Ruiz at guard, especially with the limited time that they have in training camp. He was going to switch those guys, see how well they played, but to have your veteran quarterback with a new kid after only 3 weeks of activity will be catastrophic. Is that a good word to say? But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he can't do it. And I want people to understand my comments. Uh, all right, should I say the potential of being catastrophic? Okay. That might be the better words to be used. Okay. All right. So we know what we have in Kamara, Murray, and we know what we have with Dwayne Washington being a special teams player. Now, behind him, we have Tony Jones Jr. and we have Ty Montgomery. One of those two guys will not be a part of the squad. What are your thoughts?
If Tony Jones Jr. had OTAs and preseason, I would give him based off of what we know, and which is really just his film at Notre Dame, his running style, and the Saints' history of doing well, of having success with undrafted and late round draft picks at running back. I would give Tony Jones Jr. a better chance. Otherwise, I really consider him, just a strong a developmental candidate for the practice squad. As far as Ty Montgomery, I think Ty Montgomery does make this team, but I think it's more as a receiver. He's another one of those players, like you mentioned, Kyle, with a couple of the defenders. Ty can play 3 or 4 different positions on your offense. So that versatility is not only valuable to New Orleans, but he wears the number 88 for a reason, and it's not because he's a running back by trade.
Right.
He filled in at that position early in his career with the Green Bay Packers and had some success doing it. But as a running back, Ty runs a little bit upright, has a little bit slow change of direction for a running back. Now you put the ball in his hands in the open field, say after a catch, he's really difficult for defenders to track down and stop. But I think Ty Montgomery does make this team, I think, for his pass catching abilities. And we'll see him used from time to time at running back. But I think Dwayne Washington has your inside track for the number 3 running back. But I think the majority of us expect the Saints to carry 6 wideouts, with Ty Montgomery being one of those wideouts, knowing that you do have him as a fallback running back option if you had to use him.
Yeah, I agree. Wide out, running back, kickoff return, punt returns. He has a plethora of abilities for the New Orleans Saints. All right. Don, you said, what about Todd? I think he's a sleeper signing. Okay. Yeah, we agree. Yeah, he can play receiver as well. Yes. Okay, guys. We're going to kind of start wrapping up the broadcast for tonight. There was a couple of things I wanted to talk about, Bob, outside of the Saints. Well, anyway, let's stay on the Saints for right now. Terry Fontenot, that's what I wanted to talk about. Okay, good. Terry Fontenot, if you guys don't know Terry, he headed up the Saints scouting department for many a year. He came in as an intern and has blossomed over the past several years. Now he's a VP of the scouting department. What do you think about the promotion, Bob?
I love the promotion. Terry has done some really good work. The whole scouting department has. We talk about the young talent that is on the New Orleans Saints, and that they have built from the draft and developed that young talent over the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. It's because of guys like Terry Fontenot and Jeff Ireland and people like that, and their scouts that are spend tireless hours out on the road. Those are the guys, men and people in football organizations. They have the thankless jobs, but they're the ones that help build your franchise. They truly are. So for Terry, it's a well-deserved promotion. And I always love to see the New Orleans Saints promote from within. You want to keep your success in-house, and you want to hold on to your in-house talent. We have seen a few guys, escape that the Saints front office, for other places in recent years. but really the whole Benson family has done a spectacular job of recognizing what they have and rewarding them both financially and with job responsibilities.
Mrs. Benson has done a fantastic job as far as giving opportunities to minority candidates. Swin Cash over at the Pelicans, Alvin Gentry, of course, right? But also, you got to think about Nola Chick, who is a friend of our broadcast. She's the VP of production for the New Orleans Saints. She once was the production lead over at the NFL Network. So she's been brought back home. You know, Terry Fontenot said on a podcast with John DeShazier as well as Carolyn that his dad would have been upset with him if he left the Saints. So he had to stay home, you know, so he made it a choice to stay home. But it's good to be able to see what Terry has been able to bring to the table to help the Saints organization. He's the one who spotted guys like Alvin Kamara, guys. He's the one who spotted out the talents that you would say, man, who's a Deontay Harris? What's a Deontay Harris? Well, that's Terry Fontenot. He's able to bring in those guys. Think about Deontay Harris, long shot to be able to make the team. Becomes an all-pro his rookie season. All right, Scooby-Doo, it too. What's going on, Scooby? How you doing, buddy? And Donald say, I want Mickey Loomis to become the president of the New Orleans Saints and Jeff, I guess Jeff to become the general manager. Well, I think the president role has already been taken, man, and that guy doesn't want to give it up as easily. So, but, you know, Mickey is the executive vice president for the organization. He's done a great job in that role thus far. All right. There was one other announcement. Okay. So going forward, guys, we are, for everyone who, hold on, there was, all right, Scoob. And Donald said he wants Jeff Ireland to become the GM, excessive vice president of the North. Okay. All right, man. Gotcha, babe. Look, he should be the CEO of the New Orleans Saints. You talking about, I guess he's talking about Mr. Loomis there. Yeah. All right. Saints fans, if the New Orleans Saints do not have fans in the stadium, will you still watch the games? Yes or no? Want to know what you think before we get off? Will you still watch the games? Will you still watch the games? All right. Bob, you have an article coming out on tomorrow. Tell the people what to expect.
Well, for those of you that that follow us at the Saints News Network and SI.com, you know that Brendan Boylan started the offensive series on projecting the Saints 53-man roster. I liked what Brendan started. I love what Brendan started to do, breaking it down by position. So I have been doing the same thing on the defensive side of the ball. So tomorrow's article is projecting who the Saints will keep at the linebacker position. Kyle and I talked at length about a couple of those players tonight, specifically Nigel Bradham. He might be mentioned a time or two in the article tomorrow. And then, of course, I'm going to tackle my personal favorite, the Saints secondary. And don't think that we forgot. I mean, each, Kyle, myself, John, Brendan, we're all going to do our own 53-man roster projection articles. It is that without any preseason games at all, folks. It is just.
Not me. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Drink the Kool-Aid. But I mean, we of course are going to give that to you. I think it's fun what Brendan started in doing the position by position breakdowns. For example, I think that the Saints are going to ultimately keep 6 active linebackers into the regular season. but I'm going to talk a little bit about each player that's on their roster at that position, like we have the other positions. So that's what we'll have coming out tomorrow morning. I'm working on a couple of editorials as well that I'm sure is going to stir up maybe not as much controversy as my vice presidential selection from last night. But I'm hoping that it'll start up a couple good conversations and good dialogues about or among not only Saints fans but NFL fans also.
Yeah. And I kind of felt like Susan Rice there, Bob, that you did not select me, but you chose Jim Everett. And I'm not going to. We'll talk more about that offline. But anyway, that was funny, man. That was funny. All right. I asked the question, should the Saints bring back the old black and old gold uniforms from the 1960s and early 70s? Donald, you guys say yes. Yes. All right. Cool. I like that, man. I was wondering why we haven't seen those uniforms in the past 3 years, man. We are undefeated in those uniforms as well, and we were undefeated in all white until that Minnesota game. But anyway, we have some of the best uniforms in the league, in my opinion, especially that white with the stripes. And matter of fact, the National Football League, in my opinion, I think this is a good year to be a little bit more flexible in allowing different uniforms to be given out by the teams at their own discretion, instead of having to have, we can only wear it 3 times or 2 times or whatever, kind of crazy rules anyway. But if you notice, the Atlanta Falcons have some new uniforms, Bob. I'm going to say this. Ty Gurley's uniform, I know it's supposed to be 21, but that looks like a 7. That one looks like a 7 to me, man. What are your thoughts?
Man, I don't know, what kind of air is being pumped through the Atlanta, Georgia region. But there's something going on. Because every time the Falcons have a uniform change, it looks more and more psychedelic to me. So I don't know, what they're smoking, what they're snorting, what they're drinking in that front office, for their uniform designs. And look, I make no secret of the fact either that I'm an old school way of thinking. Not quite the old man yelling at you to get off of my lawn yet. But I like the old I don't like anything Atlanta Falcon related. But I was always a fan of their old red uniforms. And the red helmets. Like you said, Kyle, I do like when some teams tweak their uniforms or add a new different third uniform option. I for one, the Saints gold uniforms that they wore a couple years ago, I know Mr. Benson hated those. I would be a fan of using those for the New Orleans Saints third uniform kind of thing. But other than that, I love the Saints uniform combination now. I agree with you. I think it's one of the best, if not the best, in the league.
Yeah, I think it is, man. Them uniforms should have never been changed. The old uniforms, yep. It should always been a part of the Saints because it's a part of New Orleans Saints history. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Bob, tell everyone how they can find you on the World Wide Web.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us tonight, and also continuing to read and support our articles. Irv Smith, I don't know if you're listening. I know you probably haven't. You probably had some technical troubles, so we'll definitely shoot again for another week. I know you're a good friend of ours, and you're a good friend of the show's. So we're sorry we didn't have you on this week, but we'll get you on soon. Folks, as far as following me, easiest way to follow my work, of course, is through the Saints News Network and SI.com and at Saints News on Twitter. But you can also follow me personally on Facebook. Just look for Bob Rose. On Twitter, it's at Bobby R2613. And remember, vote Rose /Everett in 2020. My vice presidential selection is Jim Everett. So we'll be between the two of us. We'll put our goofy minds to work over the next few weeks and give you some silly campaign ideas. But we're going to have fun with it. And last but certainly not least, you folks in the Bayou Blitz Facebook group. You guys make Kyle's and my life so much easier and so much more fun. If you aren't a member of the Bayou Blitz Facebook group, shoot Kyle or I a message, or just look, do the search engine on Facebook. It's a really fun and really involved group of Saints fans and NFL fans. It's not just, of course, you get to see our SI.com articles first if you're in that group, at least a few minutes faster than most of the rest of the public. But it's such an interactive group as far as ideas, feedback, different joking around. Nobody gets bullied in there, and everybody's voice is equally heard. So if you're already in there, thank you so much for what you do for us. You make our life so much better, so much easier. And if you aren't a member, what the heck's wrong with you? Join the fun. Drink the Kool-Aid.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Thank you, Don Woods. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Don, thank you. Appreciate it. I was sending everybody a note. Thank you guys for tuning in again tonight with Bob Rose and myself. I wanted to give you guys an announcement. Make sure that you keep on supporting Bob Rose, because he may have somebody sabotage, make a visit to California and sabotage his VP. So I'm just saying something. I could do one of those. What was the ice skater who
Tanya Harding?
Tanya Harding. Do a Tanya Harding to him. Now, we by in no way means necessary condone violence. I'm not a crook. All right, man. Just having the good fun. Guys, thank you for everything that you guys are doing. Look, go to our YouTube channel. If you're on the line, you're on Facebook, help us out. We're growing that channel. We put some content out there. Sometimes I put some live breaking news out there as well. Go to our YouTube channel. It's Saints News Network. Check us out. Like us. Subscribe to us. Help us to be able to grow. And one other thing I learned, man, it's kind of crazy, the stuff that you learn behind the scenes. On YouTube, watch the whole video. Even if you don't watch the whole video, turn the volume down, let it run or something. I don't know. Google loves when people watch the videos and then the videos get put up higher in the rankings. Just a technical thing. Help us out. All right.
Put us on when you go to bed and just let it play.
Just let it play. Just let it play, man. All right. Go to si.com/NFL/Saints for the latest in New Orleans Saints news on our Sports Illustrated site. Also, you can be able to follow me at KTMOZE on Twitter, but also you can be able to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, as well as on Facebook at Saints News. This is Kyle T. Mosley with Bob Rose of the Bayou Blitz. Bob, have a good one, family. Thank you for being there, and make sure you guys vote for Bob, please. He needs it. Take care. Have a good night.